listening to Everyday Engineering, the City of Madison's engineering podcast where we talk about infrastructure. Complex topics explained simply, from the water that flows down your drain to the rain and snow that drains into the lakes. By way the curbs and streets we design. City engineering touches your life in so many ways, explained right now in Everyday Engineering. The City of Madison has a new program to keep you safer. It's called Safe Streets Madison, and it digs into safety before the design even begins. My name is Hannah Mohelnitzky, City of Madison Engineering Division Public Information Officer. Today I'm joined here by Traffic Engineering Engineer Allie Heinritz and City of Madison Engineering Division City Engineer Jim Wolfe. Thanks both for being here.
Yeah,
Thank
for
you,
having
Hannah.
us.
Yeah, so before we get started, can you both kind of explain your experience as it relates to our conversation today?
Yeah, so I'm Allie, and I'm an engineer with the Traffic Engineering Division here at the City of Madison. So I primarily work on signing, pavement marking, traffic control for the reconstruction projects and whatnot. But I also am a co-lead on the new Vision Zero initiative. And so Safe Streets Madison is a big part of Vision Zero.
Jim?
And prior to my recent promotion to city engineer, I was heavily involved in a lot of our street reconstruction projects, and I worked a lot with our colleagues in traffic engineering on our former traffic calming program. So looking at ways to kind of slow speeds down on streets, improve pedestrian bike safety, a lot of that in my former design engineer life.
Yes. So both very in it. You're in it with the street design process at the city. And for anybody listening, clarification again, before we continue. The city has two divisions that work closely on street design projects. Obviously, it impacts a lot more than just these two, but the main two are traffic engineering and engineering. And the way I kind of explain the difference to non-engineers is engineering division designs the streets, and traffic engineering kind of focuses on the flow, the safety, and the use on the street, which includes design as well. So stoplights, crossings, traffic flow, impact that way. So just wanted to lay some groundwork for anybody listening and may not know. I get that question all the time. What's the difference between traffic engineering and engineering? So in a nutshell, without getting too much into the weeds, that's it. Okay, so when we're doing these projects, how do we work together?
So under our Safe Streets Madison program that we're kind of focusing on here today, traffic engineering will kind of take the lead on prioritizing projects and looking at concepts to improve safety in different locations throughout the city. And then they'll work with us, and folks in engineering kind of take over in terms of implementation of that. Then we'll kind of work together in preparing construction documents, and we'll get that out to bid, and then we'll kind of work together again through inspection and construction, and hopefully opening things back up to a safer street.
Yeah.
Did he get it right, Allie?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, traffic engineering is almost like the surface stuff. Like, you know, when they have a reconstruction project, us traffic engineers will kind of come in and, like, you know, improve the signing or improve the pavement markings or put in a bike lane or any of the safety improvements, as well as like speed humps we look at for like traffic calming and traffic circles and stuff like that. So they kind of do the first initial part, and then we kind of do the second part, if that makes sense.
Yeah, working together,
Yeah.
yes.
There's really a lot of back and forth
Yeah.
so that we can kind of come up with a final product that works for all of the street uses.
Yes, absolutely. And today we're going to cover a number of traffic engineering specifically topics today, but let's start with Safe Streets Madison. We've said the word, we've said the program name. It's an approach to our design work between both traffic engineering that puts safety at the center of project selection. So what is our current process, and what will this program change? Because people who do not eat, sleep, and breathe design on the streets in the Madison area probably don't know what we're talking about yet. So let's break it down pretty easy. What is there and what is going to change?
Well, this is, I guess, it's kind of, Safe Streets kind of was a mixture of things. So like we had Vision Zero projects, and then we had like the traffic calming committee and whatnot. So it's almost like a combination of like many things that kind of, one for prioritizing and selecting projects. So it's equity focused, and it's a way to select these safety projects, as well as looking at the high injury network, which is a network of our city roadways that have the highest fatalities and serious injuries on them. And so with the high injury network in mind, we kind of select these projects and prioritize them accordingly. If I
Sure.
can speak.
Yes.
So like Allie had mentioned previously, we had several different buckets that all kind of created similar projects in a way. So it's simplified things into, we've got now this one program. And previously, a lot of our project selection was mostly, or not necessarily mostly, a lot of it was complaint driven, where we would hear complaints from residents, alders, and we kind of build that into a running list, and then we'd see where it fit in those different buckets. But now we have actual data that we're using to help prioritize these projects.
So we're not just responding, we're being a little more proactive on the front end with the information that we have so that we can make it better for our community.
Exactly.
Yeah, there.
Thank you, Hannah.
Podcast
Non-engineer.
done. Yeah.
A non-engineer to sum it up well for us.
Exactly. I'm listening to what you both are saying, and I think that's the biggest difference, right? And I think that's important to note. Let's look at even deeper. So like this program, so we're talking about prioritization, and we're talking about safety. It's making our streets safer. I thought this was interesting. Safety of the lighting, even lighting impacts. Talk me through that. Why should people care about what kind of lighting is on their street?
Yeah, so I mean, lighting is a big part of safety. And through Vision Zero, as well as Safe Streets Madison, we've made several lighting improvements around the city, like specifically East Washington. I know we improved a lot of the lighting, especially at the intersections where we have seen some of those fatalities and serious injuries. And also the city is rolling out soon the big LED conversion project. And so that'll really improve the safety of lighting.
So a big part of safety, is, along with like speed reduction and things, is visibility. And so enhanced lighting, improved lighting in known problematic areas is helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a very simple, obvious, softball question. Why would lighting improve the safety? It does, but there's a lot more deliberate decision making that goes into the types of lighting and what goes into that, it sounds like, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Yes, that is true.
Okay.
And really trying to focus on areas where we know there are problems. And sometimes just adding lighting is a lower cost improvement to improve safety rather than like ripping up the whole street and trying to rechange the whole configuration or something like that.
Sure. Okay, let's talk about a few other things. Speed limit reductions. Where do you want to go on that, and how does that impact everybody? We know slower, less crashes, but what else goes into that thought process when adding those into our streets?
Yeah, it's a controversial one, right? But
Yeah, people have a lot to say about the speed reductions, especially when they're used to driving a certain speed when
Sure.
it changes. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what it comes down to is, speed kills, right? But I guess here, at the city and through Vision Zero, it's a main priority. And reducing those speed limits is definitely one of the number one things that we would like to do, as well as, of course, making those physical improvements as well. We have reduced a little over 20 miles of roadway already through Vision Zero. And we'll also be rolling out the 20 is Plenty initiative soon, next year. But I guess just put it into like a different retrospect, is that just 5 miles per hour over the speed limit just makes it that much more likely of a fatality or serious injury.
Just 5.
Just 5.
That's like if you forget for a moment you're kind of going and you speed a little faster because you like a song on the radio. It's literally
Yeah,
that.
right.
It's
Yeah.
that.
It's
that-
crazy.
Yes.
It's significant. I mean, just 30 miles per hour over the speed limit, you're like, what is it? You're 5%, or if you're going 40 miles per hour, it's 29% more likely to lead to fatality or serious injury. So it's just that little bit. It's crazy.
That little bit does make a lot of
Yes.
difference. And it can be life or death in some cases when we're talking about incidents on the streets. RRFBs, what are those? And how do they impact our community?
So RRFB is an acronym for Rectangular Rapid Flashing Beacon. So if you've been kind of in some of the busier parts of the city, Those are usually with a push button by the crosswalk, and it initiates an overhead flashing light to alert drivers that there's somebody about to enter the crosswalk. It's one of the best tools we have to improve safety, especially for pedestrian crossings, because we do get great driver obedience of those. That a lot of times drivers are kind of cruising along the street. They're maybe not paying attention to the sides. They're kind of focused on the cars ahead of them. So they'll maybe miss a pedestrian that's entering the crosswalk. And this is especially important on multi-lane roads where you maybe have one car that yields to a pedestrian, and then there's a car in the other lane that can't see that person, and they just assume that person stopped because they're turning or who knows what else.
Right.
So maybe either merge and go around them, or they'll just keep approaching the crosswalk and not actually see that pedestrian. But when you have that overhead light, all lanes of traffic can see it, and they know that something's happening there.
Is that the same as when I push it, it says wait?
Oh,
That's-
Is that the same?
So these are at.
Is that different?
That's a little different.
It is different.
All right.
So these beacons are at, so that'd be at like a big,
like a
more
mid-block
traditional
crossing.
signal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm
So-
glad we cleared that up.
Yeah. And they work really well. And so we've been making an effort to get these installed where we can.
Okay. Traffic calming. What is this when it comes to everything that we're talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, traffic calming are like those, speed humps, calming circles. They could even just be like bump outs in the roadway, narrowing the roadway, pavement markings. It's kind of a multiple of things just to improve, the safety of especially like neighborhood streets. It is the number one thing people ask for is traffic calming on their streets.
Really? So that's what is our next question. What are we hearing from our community? We hear a lot of voices in when it comes to, when an incident happens in particularly, we hear a lot more opinions on how our streets can be safer. But what are we hearing from our community either now or recently, especially when it comes to this new program?
Yeah, I mean, even just through the, public outreach that we've been doing the last couple of years, I mean, we've done kind of polls on what people really want to see through Vision Zero, through Safe Streets, and traffic calming is by far the most important things. And that's because, I mean, no one wants to see a car going 30, 40 miles per hour down their residential street while their kids are playing in the yard. So it's definitely on the top of our lists and our minds. Granted, this is a data-driven approach, but we also want to take care of, the community streets as well.
And that's something where historically, I'm coming up on 16 years with the engineering division. It was when we would do a street project in the past.
Yeah.
We had that old traffic calming program that we'd do a street project, and then we'd say, all right, now if you would like traffic calming, you can go through the traffic calming program. But now we're trying to be more upfront and get those things included with projects when we can now too, especially with the Safe Streets Madison program, maybe stepping away from more of that complaint-driven approach and more of that data-driven approach. There's still things that we can do, especially with our other street projects, to kind of keep all of our local streets safe too.
Where did the program come from?
Well, I guess we kind of, I guess I kind of mentioned that before. It was like a mixture of these different, project selection programs, and we kind of molded it into like one kind of big project selection priority list now.
So there wasn't one moment where everyone's like, we need to have this on the front end. We need to make sure we get it before and move away from the complaint-driven kind of changes. Because I think a lot of people will ask that. What made this become a program or a huge initiative for the city?
I think a lot of it, correct me if I'm wrong, Allie, kind of came out of our traffic committee. That, they kind of saw some of the issues when we were taking projects to them with, we've got these different buckets that are supposed to be for a specific use, but there was really a lot of overlap. And that kind of became challenging for them for both approving projects. And also for staff, it was always kind of a problem just kind of keeping track of all that too. That got to be pretty confusing. So a lot of this was organized through a subcommittee of our Transportation Commission.
So it sounds like it's something that will help city staff design and will make the process hopefully easier and life easier. And it'll also make life better and safer for our community. What about upcoming bigger changes when it comes to building streets that reinforce the new speed limits, like Wilson, Atwood, Hammersley?
So there's going to be a number of factors. We're going to be looking at probably narrower streets to a certain extent. That having a narrow street kind of constricts the feel of it a little bit. That just reinforces slower speeds. Like when the speed limits were reduced on East Washington Avenue, we took a look at the signal timing too, so that those signals were a little bit more coordinated, so that if you were speeding down East Wash, you weren't going to get any further because you just get stopped at a red light. So trying to be proactive in some of those measures along the street to enforce those speed limits is helpful.
It is the worst, being stopped, especially when you got somewhere to go.
If you're driving the speed limit, you'll hit the green light.
You'll just kind of
Really?
keep cruising
Yeah.
along.
That's the secret.
Look, same with university. If you're driving exactly 25 miles an hour, you're going to hit every green, and that's people don't understand.
Oh my gosh, this is groundbreaking right now. If only we just would follow the speed limit, we would hit greens every way, every time.
I
If
think
they're
you've just
programmed.
told us a lot.
Which they are on East
Right,
Wash
right.
and University.
I think you've just told us a lot about your driving behaviors too,
Yeah.
Hannah.
Oh,
Yeah,
is this an intervention right now? I feel like maybe we're talking about my driving. No, this is important though, and I think that is a good thing. There is a reason, right? There's the why. People are going to ask, why are we going narrower? Why are we reducing the speed? It might feel annoying at the time if our habits are faster or used to something else, but in the long run, it will make hopefully just a better experience on the streets, and better means safer. I mean, I guess, why does speed matter in the grand picture other than the obvious? I mean, I think we talked about it a little bit. It saves lives when we go slower. Anything else you want to hit on that part?
And a slower street is more comfortable for everyone to use, not just if you're in a car, but if you're walking along the street, biking along the street. It is safer, but it's also more comfortable.
Recently, and this is one of my last questions for us today, we did hold a World Day of Remembrance. Can you explain a little bit of that, maybe, Allie, and what was that, and why did we decide to hold that for our community?
Yeah, so this year it was held on November 20th. I think it was a Sunday. And it's a day to remember all of the lives lost due to traffic crashes, and also the families who have suffered from lost loved ones due to traffic crashes. And so this year, through Vision Zero, the city, we did a nice display of cardboard people on the front lawn of the MMB building. And each cutout had the date of the person who lost their life in the last 5 years. Also, we also had the tea light candles in front of each cutout. It was just a spectacular, just very beautiful remembrance of those who lost their lives. And we also had that press conference with the mayor the Tuesday before. And really, it's just a day to remember those people.
It definitely puts humanness into your designs. It makes you realize, okay, this is why we're doing this. And that's why I think it's good to end on that note and leave people with, one last thing is take it slow. You'll hear more about 2020 is Plenty.
Yes.
When is that kick, or did that kick off, or what are we doing?
Yeah,
with that?
we had a pilot program last year for it, and we had a couple residential areas that were reduced to 20 miles an hour, just to like pilot it off, and
Sure.
then we're going to be rolling it out next spring, summer for the entire city.
Okay.
But it is, we're not there to, give citations or anything. It's more of just a movement to just really tell people to slow down. There's kids, there's people biking, walking, and whatnot, and it's just a movement to really slow down and watch out for people.
Wow. A lot of impact, and it really does put it into perspective, and we hope that, people don't have to be impacted by a certain incident or a death because of a traffic incident or crash. Again, any last things you want to put out there for anyone listening? Any resources, anything else that you want to mention that I didn't ask you?
I mean, if you want more information on like Vision Zero Safe Streets Madison, please check out our website, City of Madison /Vision Zero. You also subscribe to our newsletter that comes out quarterly, and that usually features different things we've been doing around Vision Zero and whatnot. So it's some good information out there.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie. Jim? Any last words? You want the last
Allie
word?
covered it. No, I don't have anything else to add.
All right, Allie gets the last word. Thank you so much both for joining us today. Thank you for listening. If you have a question or comment about this podcast episode, please feel free to write in to us at engineering@cityofmadison.com. Also, please check out our engineering division website and the traffic engineering website that Allie mentioned. All of those resources about this topic and any other topics you want to learn more about, because as always, we are here for you every day in engineering.